Distributed computing manifesto from AWS, time to live tables from TitaniumDB, and Splunk and its project to use Apache Pulsar for processing more than 10 petabytes of data per day in the highlights of this Architecture Weekly number 44. This week also Spring announced the general availability of version number 6, which brings the baseline of Java 17, the support of Java EE9 and Jakarta namespace, and ahead of time compilation for Spring application context and enabling of Grail VM for Spring Boot 3. And the first highlight of the week is the Distributed Computing Manifesto that is published by the Amazon CTO. This manifesto originates in 1998 when the company realized that in order to support the scale of their product and in order to support the one order of magnitude more orders in their system, they really need to shift their paradigm of their computing environment. So they decided to split the data from the application and to shift the paradigm of the developers that really needs to bring the business logic checks into their application. Read the full article at the allthingsdistributed.com. Next one is a deck by Splunk where they showcased how they used Apache Pulsar for collecting and processing more than 10 petabytes of logs daily. They include the calculations of the network and storage and explain their design decisions in order to support such a system. Follow the deck. And the last one from the highlight section is an article by TitaniumDB about the support of time to live tables. So this is a very common use case when you need your data to expire after some time. For example, if you're implementing your own one-time passwords, or you just don't want to store the data that loses its value after a long period of time. So this capability can be really useful. In the blog post, they explain how TitaniumDB supports it both on the row and partition level and what issue they faced during the implementation. The next one is the first article from a series where Etsy describes how they managed to scale up with using cloud. So they migrated from the on-premises setup and the monolith LAMP application to GCP and converted their application to a cloud-native one and migrated their data lake to BigQuery. First post in a blog of Martin Fowler from Etsy. When you're a small startup, building an API is not a problem. However, when you have several teams and you want their APIs to be really aligned and use same approaches, it becomes a problem. How do you align the teams in their API design? Well, you need to communicate a lot, you need to formulate the approaches for them and use appropriate tools to make, for example, code generation or follow the agreements. So follow the post by Mikhail Kozminsky about the API design for teams. Talking about many teams, they frequently use the same common platform. And what do you do if you need to advance this platform or migrate the teams to it? Spotify showcases how they did it for their mobile code base. But don't be afraid about mobile, because the principles that are shown here are the same for the backend or front-end development as well. So basically there are several challenges, like how do you understand the scope of this migration and why it feels huge and undoable in the first place, to the problems of scaling up the solution, rolling it over all the teams, and understanding what should be done first. So very interesting article, follow it at the Spotify blog. And as we started with the migrations, let's talk about the article by Gridium about migrating to AWS Aurora from Postgres RDS. And this is a very interesting one because the main driver of the migration was about paying too much for the storage, and they were committed to use 6 terabytes of storage, but were using only 3. So they decided to migrate to Aurora because it promised to use only the storage that is actually being in use. It appeared that Aurora driven their cost even higher than it was before. So there are several interesting observations that the team made and discovered that I/O operations cost a lot for them. So they made several optimizations and they stumbled upon a question: if the migration was worth it in the first place, so follow the article. Okay, next one is about event-driven architectures and the pitfalls you want to avoid while migrating to it. So it appears that event-driven approach can bring you a lot of benefits like loose coupling or an ability to reproduce the state if you're using event sources. However, if you make some mistakes about writing to the DB and then not having a transaction when firing an event, or applying event sourcing everywhere, or using large payloads for your events, so there are tons of mistakes. The good thing about this particular article is that it provides the remediation for all of those pitfalls, so yeah, take a look. Next one is about house engineering. As you might remember, house engineering is about simulating the disastrous events like the whole data center going down and understanding what happens to your system and how it affects your users. So here we have a blog post in the Harness.io, and they describe the history of house engineering, the best practices, and what you can actually do and what principles you should follow in order to have a successful one. And the last one for today is an enterprise architecture tools practical guide. What the hell is enterprise architecture in the first place? So basically, enterprise architects, they need to create a strategy for their organization and make some technology choices that will allow the business to grow in upcoming 3 or 5 years. So that sounds like a complex task, but this article mentions the tools that can help you to build up a picture and to understand what applications are used in your organization, how do they support the capabilities of your business, and visualize all of that, unlocking your possibility to make some data-driven decisions. Okay, so that's it for this week. If you like the article and this new newsletter, you can support it at Patreon or Boosty. If you don't have such ability, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, or maybe leave me a comment so that I understand how to improve this newsletter in future issues. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.